you there, David? Are you there, Mr. David Bowie?
Hey everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Superfan.
We're just hanging out here with our little compadre here. And we just finished watching the David Bowie documentary film, Moonage Daydream.
Yes, we did.
And we're going to do our best to comment on it and react to it. I guess this is maybe more of a reaction than a review.
Yeah.
Are you as speechless as I am?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of speechless too. I knew walking into this that this was going to be not like any previous documentary about an iconic artist of the rock era, of the classic rock era, than I am probably used to. And actually, I really shouldn't even refer to David Bowie as an artist from the classic rock era, although he did come up during that time. He remained a relevant recording artist all the way through to his death here in the 21st century.
And he changed with the times. He's one of those artists that never stopped changing or developing.
I don't think he changed with the times. I think he just changed.
Well, no, he changed the times.
In some cases, yeah, he did change the times. I'm going to move to the middle of the film right now when we're in the 80s.
Yeah.
When he has perhaps his biggest commercial success, commercially speaking. And he enters this phase wanting to make music that is just happy. Not complex, not filled with any deeper meanings, just music that is happy. And it succeeds enormously. And he's playing in front of large audiences. And he begins to feel unfulfilled. He begins to feel like he's lost who he is in some respects. And he mentions this much earlier in the film, that he will put himself in what he refers to are dangerous situations that make him uncomfortable to motivate his creativity. And he keeps saying, he always says in the film, my writing. I assume he means his songwriting.
Yes.
That's what he means by it, because he doesn't call it songwriting, he just calls it writing. And when asked, what do you mean dangerous situations? Well, I moved out here to LA, he said. I detest this city. And he puts himself in places that make him uncomfortable. I guess it's the old saying of, if something scares you, do it.
Well, I think you're kind of blurring things, because he moved to LA area in the 70s.
Okay, 70s, excuse me. Well, I am blurring. I'm not blurring things. I started in the 80s, but then I said, and then earlier in the film, he says, I put myself in dangerous situations. Earlier being the 70s. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. But we're on the same page.
Yeah.
We're on the same page with this. We should talk a little bit about how the film moves, because there is no narrator in this film except for Bowie, not consciously narrating, but throughout the film we hear various sound bites of interviews that he's done throughout his career. These archival interview conversations become the narration of the film and tell the story, basically.
And the pictures, the images.
And the images too. But now, while those interview audio clips move in a linear fashion and follow him throughout the life of his career, the video images don't. You can be watching, we were in the 70s during the Ziggy Stardust period, and yet every now and again the imagery would have him more in his later years.
Yeah.
And then again, when we're there, I'm going back to the 80s again, which was the period of David Bowie that I probably liked the least, but I'm starting to gain a new appreciation for. But when we're in the 80s, we have a moment where he's being interviewed and asked, there are people who've been with you since the beginning, and do a lot of them say you've sold out? You know, and he says, I'll never deny anybody the right to have an audience, he says. But during those moments, we suddenly cut to clips of him during the 70s, during the Ziggy Stardust days, performing live.
Yeah.
Something I will say about this film, if it's not already apparent, if you're looking for the typical documentary, biography of a music artist where it talks to you about how they got from point A to point B, how they got signed to a record label, who produced who produced what album, and what happened during the recording of that album. If you're looking for all of that, you're not going to get that out of this film at all.
Not at all.
Now, if you like seeing live performances, you're going to get a ton of that in this film.
But not complete live performances.
It's fine, because the amount that I got to see was, for me, very gratifying.
Yeah.
Because I never got to see David Bowie live. So getting to see these clips of him in performance, and they're not like they're short little 10-second, 30-second clips. You get a nice, you get whole songs. Sometimes you get partial songs, yes. But I get a nice, good glimpse into different periods of him as a performer. And to me, it was really great to get to see a lot of this, because I've never seen any of it anywhere else previously.
And I did have the experience of seeing him live.
Yeah.
Thank God. For the Glass Spider tour, which is...
That was kind of the greatest hits tour that he did, right? If I'm not mistaken. The one with Peter Frampton?
That was the one with Peter Frampton. But it came out around the time of... I can't think of the album. Let me look it up really quick.
Sure. Wasn't it during Tin Machine?
No, that was the band name I was thinking of for all that time. Glass Spider Tour is what it was called.
Yeah.
But the album, Never Let Me Down.
Okay. All right.
1987.
And you're much more familiar with that period than I am. At the time, I just did not care for that period. But like I said before, especially after watching this film, I'm starting to gain a new appreciation for it. I enjoyed the live performances of songs like Let's Dance that we saw. I enjoyed the way those songs sounded live much more than I enjoyed the studio versions. But I really appreciated getting to see as much live performance video as this movie allowed.
Yeah,
because it let me see a lot. I don't think I've ever seen a music documentary that allowed me to see this much live performance uninterrupted, not limited to just 30 seconds or 20 seconds, but really good chunks of live performance. I really appreciated that very much. I would say, if I could sum up this movie, I would say that while I didn't learn a lot of statistics, like I said earlier, when was this album recorded? Who produced it? Whose idea was it to do this or that? While you're not going to get a lot of like that.
You don't get any of that.
What you do get is how he related to his art during each period of his life.
And
how he related to his songwriting and the music he was creating, and even the other endeavors he undertook, which was acting and painting, which I had never seen any of his paintings before. Had you?
No, and they talked about sculpting, but we didn't really see much of that either.
I think he just mentioned he was interested in it, but I don't know if he did any. But he also mentioned that he turned down a couple art shows because he wasn't sure he wanted people to see the paintings. I don't know, and like I said,
he wasn't ready to share them.
If anybody out there watching can correct us on this, we don't claim to know everything about David Bowie, but I'd never seen these paintings before. And I even wonder now, was this movie where a lot of them were first seen? I don't know. Maybe later in his life, but I had never seen his paintings or heard of his paintings prior to this film.
I knew he painted. But I don't recall ever seeing any of his art.
I thought the paintings were really good.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really good. Definitely museum worthy, in my opinion. But I feel like this film is letting me understand where his creative process comes from, which is something I always complain about with biopics, not to be confused with documentaries, is they tend to center too much on drama versus the creative process. I'd rather know about the creative process. And with this film, I feel like I understand his relationship to his art, and I have a better idea of where his creative process is coming from and where he's coming from personally when he made the art that he made throughout the years.
Yeah.
I feel like I got a better sense of that. The one time where he gets, where it becomes more like a normal music documentary is when he talks about meeting his wife, Iman.
Yes.
Meeting her for the first time. Then he literally, how shall I say, comes down to earth and talks about how this fundamentally changed him. How once he got married, he didn't want to go on tour because he felt it was important to the marriage that he not suddenly be gone for 10 months.
Yeah.
To the start of the marriage. And
he didn't want to run away for a year.
Exactly. And how, of course, previously in other interviews prior to that moment in the film, there was a section where he talked about how, yes, I fall in love, but I can't let love keep me from my art. And I feel like it's going to. And he finally reaches that point later in life where he's okay with that. He doesn't he wants to experience the relationship, and the art can take a back seat for a while I do that.
Yeah, and he said that opinion has changed.
Yeah, that opinion has changed, yeah. And good on him, because we all grow and change. But you know what I feel about this film? A lot of times we think we know the artists that we look up to, be they musicians, painters, actors, filmmakers, writers. We feel through that, by experiencing their art, that we know them. We don't, of course. We only think we do. We project on them what we think they might be like. I feel like this film is probably the closest I'll come to knowing who he was, or I should say, the part of him that he's willing to let everybody know.
Yeah. I
feel like through all these different interviews where he's asked questions and his thoughts on things, and which, as I watch it now, he's answering very honestly. He's being very honest with the people that interview him throughout the years. I think when I was younger, had I seen some of these interviews in the 70s, I might have thought he was just kind of...
Well, and when he was younger, he was being kind of flippant.
At times, yes, but there was still an honesty there.
There was. But,
I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, he's yanking the chains of the people who are interviewing him. But he's also, I think, at times being
ridiculous questions.
But he's also being very bluntly honest when he's asked a real question about what he thinks about what he's doing, about art, about all these things. Then he gets very openly honest.
Yeah,
when they ask him a real
question. Questions seriously.
Yeah,
but
he's not flippant with them at all. Yeah, but I feel like this film lets me kind of get as close as I'll get to understanding who he was and where he was as a person during these different periods of his life. It's by no means complete,
Nor should it be.
No, maybe it could never be. It's funny, after we finished watching it, this was on HBO Max, or I guess it's called Max now, we got a suggestion for another documentary about the last years of his life. I wonder if this documentary was made with any cooperation?
I believe this is the one that was made.
This one was. Yes, this one was. I'm talking about the other one that
I have no idea.
we have not seen yet. Anyways, but we thought we maybe would catch that one next as sort of supplementary viewing to this film. But yeah, I feel like this film comes the closest to letting me understand his creative process and where he's coming from, where that creative process is coming from. And that's something that I've never gotten, really, in my opinion, is in the way that I have with this film. So yeah, if you're looking for the average music documentary that's going to give you a history lesson and facts, which nothing wrong with, you're not going to get it out of this one. I think we should have that other documentary that is just the facts, the historical timeline. I think that's always good to learn. But this film gave me something completely different. And would you say it was an entertaining film?
Yes.
I would too.
Absolutely.
I thought even though it was limited narration, just Bowie's interview audio, even though that was limited, because there were lots of gaps where we're just watching a performance. We're just seeing him doing things, you know. We're seeing clips of the various films that he starred in. And we're also getting juxtapositions of clips from other media. I saw scenes from Nosferatu, Metropolis, Wizard of Oz, just other films. I'm not sure 100% I understand why they're there. Maybe on repeated viewings I might know better, or maybe I won't. And maybe that's just some of the mystery of his art.
Well, I think some of it was pertaining to work that he did.
Some of it was the films that he was in. But then you also saw other films that
like
he had nothing to do with.
He was in The Hunger.
He was in a vampire movie, but
Yeah.
Nosferatu is a silent German film.
Yeah.
So, you know, and The Wizard of Oz. I'm not sure how that pertains, but it was there.
Everything's affected by The Wizard of Oz.
I guess so, especially Pink Floyd. But
Yes.
but yeah, I really like this film. I was never not engaged with it. And I just really did appreciate the wealth of live footage from all the different eras that I got to see. To me, that was a good sampling of David Bowie as a live performer, since he did change so much. What going to one of his concerts was about. He kept changing that and changing that. And so it was good to see a nice overview of that. I really appreciated that about the film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of hard to explain because it's not a typical documentary.
Yeah, and I knew it would be, and we could tell by the trailer it wasn't going to be, but couldn't really know till we saw it. So we both really like this film. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we definitely both recommend it to you out there. Let us know if you've seen it. Let us know your thoughts. Is there anything that you think we missed in this discussion, that a point that should be brought up? If so,
Probably. A lot.
I'm guessing we probably did. Yeah. And we'll probably think of it once we're done, once we turn the camera off.
that
Oh,
always
we should have talked
happens.
about this. But let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you thought of it. And again, were there any aspects to the film that we should have brought up during this conversation? Please put it in the comments. We'd really appreciate it if you do that. And really quickly, a big thank you to the patron supporters. Patron supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos not available on this channel.
You're fierce and mighty.
Indeed, we appreciate you very much. We also just appreciate you if you just click like. You know, if you can't be a patron supporter, click like. That helps a great deal. Recommend these videos to anyone you think might be interested. And mostly just thank you for stopping by. It means a lot. And
Grogu says he's more alien than Ziggy Stardust ever was.
I don't know about that. I think Grogu looks pretty down to earth compared to Ziggy Stardust. But everybody, poor guy, look at him. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.